Welcome to Storytellers Anthropology. Please subscribe, comment, and share. Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. Today we are about to discuss about Eskimo people. Eskimo peoples are the indigenous circumpolar peoples who have traditionally inhabited the northern circumpolar region from eastern Siberia, Russia to Alaska, United States, Canada, and Greenland. Today, the Inuit Circumpolar Council is composed of approximately 160,000 Inuit people living across Alaska, Canada, Greenland, and Russia. The two main peoples known as Eskimo are the Inuit, including the Alaskan Inupiat peoples, the Greenlandic Inuit, and the mass grouping Inuit peoples of Canada, and the Yupik of eastern Siberia and Alaska. A third northern group, the Aleut, is closely related to both. They share a relatively recent common ancestor and a language group, Eskimo Aleut. The Chukchi people from Siberia are also the closest living relatives of Inuit and Yupik people. The non-Inuit sub-branch of the Eskimo branch of the Eskimo Aleut language family consists of 4 distinct Yupik languages, 2 used in the Russian Far East and St. Lawrence Island, and 2 used in western Alaska, southwestern Alaska, and the western part of south central Alaska. The extinct language of the Sirenic people is sometimes argued to be related to this. The word Eskimo comes from the Montagnais word for snowshoe-nator. According to scholars at the Smithsonian Institution, the governments in Canada and Greenland have ceased using it in official documents. Instead, Canada officially uses the term Inuit to describe the native people. This is the picture: lamellar armor owned by native Siberians, stone remains of a Dorset culture, longhouse near Cambridge Bay, English welcome to Barrow and Inupiaq, framed by whale jaw bones. Distribution of language variant across the Arctic. This is the picture of Eskimo fisherman's summer house, Yupik of Nelson, an Inupiat family from Nunatak, Alaska, 1929. Aleutic dancer during the Biennial celebration cultural event. Salmon drying, Aleutic village, Old Harval, Korea Highland. Photographed by N.B. Miller, 1889. Siberian Yupik brought the steamer bowhead. Model of an ice scoop, Alaska native, 1900 to 1930, Brooklyn Museum. Origin: the most commonly accepted etymological origin of the word Eskimo is derived by Ives Goddard at the Smithsonian Institution from the Montagnais word meaning snowshoe-nator or to net snowshoes. The word Eskimo means he laces a snowshoe in Montagnais. Montagnais speakers refer to the neighboring Mi'kmaq people using words that sound like Eskimo. In 1978, Josh Myhart, a Quebec anthropologist who speaks Montagnais, published a paper suggesting that Eskimo meant people who speak a different language. French traders who encountered the Montagnais in the eastern areas adopted their word for the more western peoples and spelled it as Eskimo in a transliteration. Some people consider Eskimo derogatory because it is popularly perceived to mean eaters of raw meat in Algonquian languages common to people along the Atlantic coast. One Cree speaker suggested the original word that became corrupted to Eskimo might have been Eskimesiu, which means he eats it raw. The Inuit are referred to in some Cree texts as Eskimo, which means eat something raw. The continued use of Eskimo as opposed to Inuit or other preferred name implies. Language. The Eskimo subfamily consists of the Inuit language and Yupik language subgroups. The Sirenisky language, which is virtually extinct, is sometimes regarded as a third branch of the Eskimo language family. Other sources regard it as a group belonging to the Yupik branch. Next one is about food. The Inuit have traditionally been fishers and hunters. They still hunt whales, seal, polar bears, musk oxen, birds, and fish, and at times other less commonly eaten animals such as the Arctic fox. The typical Inuit diet is high in protein and very high in fat. In their traditional diets, Inuit consumed an average of 75% of their daily energy intake from fat. While it is not possible to cultivate plants for food in the Arctic, the Inuit have traditionally gathered those that are naturally available: grasses, tubers, roots, stems, berries, and seaweed. Quanic or edible seaweed were collected and preserved depending on the season and the location. There is a vast array. In the 1920, anthropologist villager Lumur Stephenson lived with and studied a group of Inuit. The study focused on the fact that the Inuits' low carbohydrate diet had no adverse effects on their health, nor indeed Stephenson's own health. Stephenson also observed that the Inuit were able to get the necessary vitamins they needed from their traditional winter diet, which did not contain any plant matter. In particular, he found that adequate vitamin C could be obtained from items in their traditional diet of raw meat, such as ringed seal liver and whale skin muktuk. While there was considerable skepticism when he reported these findings, they have been borne out in recent studies and analyses. However, the Inuit have lifespans 12 to 15 years shorter than the average Canadians, which is thought to be a result of limited access to medical services. The life expectancy gap is not closing. Furthermore, fish oil supplement studies have failed to support claims of preventing heart attacks or strokes. Clothing. Inuit made clothes and footwear from animal skins, sewn together using needles made from animal bones and threads made from other animal products, such as sinew. The anorak is made in a similar fashion by Arctic peoples from Europe through Asia and the Americas, including the Inuit. The hood of an amauti, woman's parka plural amautit, was traditionally made extra large with a separate compartment below the hood to allow the mother to carry a baby against her back and protect it from the harsh wind. Styles vary from region to region, from the shape of the hood to the length of the tails. Boots mugluk could be made of caribou or seal skin and designed for men and women. Igloo, an igloo also known as a snow house or snow hut, is a type of shelter built of snow, typically built when the snow is suitable. Although igloos are often associated with all Inuit and Eskimo peoples, they were traditionally used only by the people of Canada's central Arctic and Greenland's Thule area. Other Inuit tended to use snow to insulate their houses, which were constructed from whalebone and hide. Snow is used because the air pockets trapped in it make it an insulator. On the outside, temperatures may be as low as minus 45 degrees Celsius or minus 49 degrees Fahrenheit, but on the inside, the temperature may range from minus 7 to 16 degrees Celsius, 19 to 61 degrees Fahrenheit when warmed by body heat alone. Nomenclature. The Inuit language word igloo can be used for a house or home built of any material and is not restricted exclusively to snow houses but includes traditional tents, short houses, home constructed of driftwood, and modern buildings. Several dialects throughout the Canadian Arctic use igloo for all buildings, including show houses, and it is the term used by the government of Nunavut. An exception to this is the dialect used in the Igloolik region. Igloo is used for other buildings while igloo vijak is specifically used for a snow house. Outside Inuit culture, however, igloo refers exclusively to shelters constructed from blocks of compacted snow, generally in the form of a dome. Types. There are three traditional types of igloos, all of different sizes and used for different purposes. The smallest are constructed as temporary shelters, usually only used for 1 or 2 nights, so they are easier to build. On rare occasions, these are built and used during hunting trips. Often an open sea ice intermediate sized igloos were for semi permanent family dwelling. This was usually a single room dwelling that housed 1 or 2 families. Often there were several of these in a small area which formed an Inuit village. The largest igloos were normally built in groups of two. One of the buildings was a temporary structure built for special occasions, the other built nearby for living. This might have had up to 5 rooms and housed up to 20 people. A large igloo might have been constructed from several smaller igloos attached by their tunnels, giving common access to the outside. These were used to hold community feasts and traditional dances. Inuit elders eating maktak. Toggling harpoon or anak hunting practices. An Inuit hunter skinning a ringed seal. Walrus hunting. Bowhead whale Balaena mysticis caught in an Inuit subsistence whale hunt. Caribou meat from Hunt, Greenland. Sharing of frozen aged walrus meat among Inuit families. Arctic char fishing. Map of the Inuit Circumpolar Council of Eskimo people showing the Yupik, Siberian Yupik, Inuit, etc. Laminar armor from hardened leather reinforced by wood and bones worn by native Siberians and Eskimos. Building methods. The snow used to build an igloo must have enough structural strength to be cut and stacked appropriately. The best snow to use for this purpose is snow which has been blown by wind, which can sever to compact and interlock the ice crystals. Snow that has settled gently to the ground in still weather is not useful. The hole left in the snow where the blocks are cut is usually used as the lower half of the shelter. Snow's insulating properties enable the inside of the igloo to remain relatively warm. In some cases, a single block of clear freshwater ice is inserted to allow light into the igloo. Igloos used as winter shelters had beds made of loose snow skins and caribou furs. Sometimes a short tunnel is constructed at the entrance to reduce wind and heat loss when the door is opened. Be raised out of independent blocks, leaning on each other and polished to fit without an additional supporting structure during construction. An igloo that is built correctly will support the weight of a person standing on the roof. Traditionally, an igloo might be deliberately consolidated immediately after construction by making a large flame, briefly making the interior very hot, which causes the walls to melt slightly and settle. Body heat is also adequate if slower. This melting and refreezing builds up a layer of ice that contributes to the strength of the igloo. The sleeping platform is a raised area because warmer air rises and cooler air settles. The entrance area acts as a cold trap, whereas the sleeping area will hold whatever heat is generated by a stove, lamp, body heat, or other device. The central Inuit, specifically those around the Devi Strait, line the living area with skin, which could increase the temperature within for around 2 degrees Celsius, 36 degrees Fahrenheit, to 10 to 20 degrees Celsius, 50 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Transport. The Inuit peoples hunted sea animals from single passenger covered sealskin boats called Kuajak Inuktitut syllabics, which were extraordinarily buoyant and could easily be righted by a seated person, even if completely overturned. Because of this property, the design was copied by Europeans and Americans, who still produce them under the Inuit name kayak. Inuit also made umikak, women's boat, larger open boats made of wood frames covered with animal skins for transporting people, goods, and dogs. They were 6 to 12 meters, 20 to 39 feet long, and had a flat bottom so that the boats could come close to shore. In the winter, Inuit would also hunt sea mammals by patiently watching an igloo breathing hole in the ice and waiting for the air-breathing seals to use them. This technique is also used by the polar bear, who hunts by seeking holes in the ice and waiting nearby. In winter, both on land and on sea ice, the Inuit used dog sleds, quamutik, for transportation. Ongoing transport. The husky dog breed comes from the Siberian husky. These dogs were bred from wolves for transportation. A team of dogs in either a tandem or side by side or fan formation would pull a sled made of wood, animal bones, or the baleen from a whale's mouth, and even frozen fish over the snow and ice. The Inuit used stars to navigate at sea and landmarks to navigate on land. They possessed a comprehensive native system of toponymy. Where natural landmarks were insufficient, the Inuit would erect an Inukshuk. Also, Greenland Inuit created Ammosali wooden maps, which are tactile devices that represent the coastline. Dogs played an integral role in the annual routine of the Inuit. During the summer, they became pack animals, sometimes dragging up to 20 kg of baggage, and in the winter, they pulled the sled. Year long, they assisted with hunting by sniffing out seals' holes, pestering polar bears. They also protected the Inuit villages by barking at bears and strangers. The Inuit generally favored and tried to breed the most striking and handsome of dogs, especially ones with bright eyes and a healthy coat. Common husky dog breeds used by the Inuit were the Canadian Eskimo dog, the official animal of Nunavut, Kumik, Inuktitut for dog, the Greenland dog, the Siberian husky, and the Alaskan Malamute. The Inuit would perform rituals over the newborn pup to give it favorable qualities. The legs were pulled to make them grow strong, and the nose was poked with a pin to enhance the sense of smell. Industry and art insult industry relate almost exclusively on animal hides, driftwood, and bones, although some tools were also made out of worked stones, particularly the readily worked soapstone. Walrus ivory was a particularly essential material used to make knives. Art played a big part in Inuit society and continues to do so today. Small sculptures of animal and human figures, usually depicting everyday gender roles, marriage, and birth and community. The division of labor in traditional Inuit society had a strong gender component, but it was not absolute. The men were traditionally hunters and fishermen, and the man took care of the children, cleaned the home, sewed, processed food, and cooked. However, there are numerous examples of women who hunted out of necessity or as a personal choice. At the same time, men who could be away from camp for several days at a time would be expected to know how to sew and cook. The marital customs among the Inuit were not strictly monogamous. Many Inuit relationships were implicitly or explicitly sexual. Open marriages, polygamy, divorce, and remarriage were known among the some Inuit groups. If there are children, divorce required the approval of the community and particularly the agreement of the elders. Marriages were often arranged. Some marriages was common for women at puberty and for men when they become productive hunters. Family structures was flexible. A household might consist of a man and his wife and children. It might include his parents or his wife's parents as well as adopted children. It might be a larger formation of several siblings with their parents, wives, and children, or even more than one family sharing dwellings and resources. Every household had its head, an elder or a particularly respected man. There was also a larger notion of community, as generally several families shared a place where they wintered. Goods were shared within a household and also to a significant extent within a whole community. The Inuit were hunter-gatherers and have been referred to as nomadic. One of the customs following the birth of an infant was for an Angakuk shaman to place a tiny ivory carving of a whale into the baby's mouth in hopes this would make the child good at hunting. Loud singing and drumming were also customs. To be continued. Next topic is about Sami people. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye and thank you from Storytellers Anthropology. Please subscribe, comment, and share.